Uhr. Chanukah ist schon du. Die Mischbuche, die kinderlich verbringt mit Sachen.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Allan Pererl, and this is Conversations in Medicine. This program brings cutting-edge topics to the community on Staten Island and throughout the tri-state area. Today we're going to go a little bit off topic, and I have a special guest host, Rabbi Yochanan Ivry, thank you, from Congregation Torah's Emes, and we're going to be talking about the festive holiday of Chanukah. It's so important that we all know each other's holidays and respect them and think about how everyone is celebrating and happy. This is such a happy time of year for all of us, and we're just so excited to have this whole group of people here. So first, again, to introduce all the guests here, and we have the best group of guests that you could ever imagine. We have Rabbi Yochanan Ivry from Congregation Torah's Emes, and on my left is Stephen Lane, my close friend, and we've got Manny Rayburn, who's the president of Congregation Torah's Emes. And we've got some very special guests. We've got Liba Ivry, wave to everybody. And we've got Ella Rayburn.
Hi.
And everybody says hi back.
Okay.
Our viewers are the best. They love our show. And they will all tell you about it afterwards. They'll all see you and wherever you go on Staten Island and say, hi, I saw you on TV. So thank you so much for coming. And we're going to talk about Chanukah. And we're going to sort of say, what is Chanukah? What the holiday is, what it commemorates. We know about lights, and we've got a whole table full of things that we commemorate on this holiday. So I'm going to have Doctor and Rabbi, we'll say Rabbi Ivry, go over some of the things that are on the table here, and we'll talk a little bit about what Chanukah is.
Sure.
So Rabbi Ivry, thank you for coming.
Right, of course, it's a real honor and a real pleasure to be here, once again celebrating this beautiful holiday, which is really a very universal holiday. In the winter time, when it starts to get cold and dark, we have the holiday of lights, and very symbolic. The menorah, of course, is the focal point of the holiday, where we focus on bringing light and goodness into the world. This story of Hanukkah took place roughly around 200 BC, before the Common Era, and it was during the Second Temple era when the ancient Greeks took over the temple, and the small group of Maccabees were able to reclaim it.
And the Maccabees were a family.
Correct, from the Kohen, from the
Right.
priesthood tribe. And it was their courage, their faith, and their tremendous determination that they were able to reclaim the temple and kindle the menorah. Now we know the story. Today you would say, the cell phone battery only would last for one day. It lasted for 8 days. In the story of Hanukkah, the oil which they lit the menorah with normally would have lasted for how many days? Only would have lasted for 1 day, and miraculously it lasted for
8 days.
8 days. So that's why we have the 8 days of the festival.
So that's what the menorah symbolizes, the 8 days of the lights, that the
Correct.
oil, and we have candles now, but a lot of people actually still use oil.
Correct. Actually, it's preferable to use oil to remind us of that miracle of the oil lasting for 8 days. Now, we have the menorah set up as if on the 8th day already, but normally we would start beginning on the right side, one candle, and each night we add an additional candle.
So for our viewers who are watching, which side would it actually start with, I think?
So you're right. So facing where I'm coming from, it's actually facing the menorah this way. It would be on this side. So you would light the candles, set up the candles, that is, starting from the right side, lighting them from the most recent candle. So if it's the second night, you would light the second candle and then the first candle after that, and so on and so forth. The idea is that you want to add a little bit one day at a time. We don't try to do too many things, right? When we have to clean up our room, sometimes we get overwhelmed. How are we going to get this room neat? We take one item at a time, one toy, one piece of clothing, and then slowly we get the room clean. The same idea every night. We see the world, and it seems challenging. It seems sometimes overwhelming. How can we actually bring goodness into this world? And the answer is one little good deed. One day, and then perhaps the next day another good deed, and slowly but surely we bring a lot of light.
And the whole concept that one candle could light up a whole dark room.
Correct.
So kids, I'm going to ask you something. So I see all these little toys. They're tops, dreidels, whatever. They're all called dreidels, and they have all these letters on them. Could you tell us about dreidels?
So, they have letters, and each letter stands for something else.
What are the letters?
Nun, Shin, Hey, Gimel.
So those are 4 Hebrew letters. And if we translate that, what are the 4, what does it mean?
Nes Gadol Hayashem.
And in English, what does that mean, man?
So, to my knowledge, that means a great miracle happened here, which is an amazing thing to behold, because even though the kids are involved and experiencing and loving just the Jewish culture, every single time we play this game, win or lose, we remember the miracles that surround us. So, kids.
I think Ella would like to share why this game, why particularly this game of dreidel.
We play with dreidels and Chanukah because when the Jewish people were learning Torah, the guards and non-Jewish people were trying to stop them from learning Torah. So whenever the guards came to see if they were learning Torah, they would play with the dreidels to try and confuse them that they're not learning Torah, but they actually were.
Wow. It was a good way of pretending not to be studying when really they were studying.
Really, a Jew's work never stops. And throughout this whole month that we're currently in, we had just passed, we went through Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and all of these brilliant, beautiful holidays. Then we went through a small patch of when we yearned and really wanted. I see the rabbi all the time, and I see his face that he just wants to go celebrate more. And here we're finally welcomed with Hanukkah, and our work and our learning and our pleasure that Judaism bring light to the world, it never really stops.
So, Steve, I think I'm going to leave you with the donuts.
My favorite part.
So tell us, why are there donuts on our table?
Okay. There's donuts on our table because they're symbolic of how we had oil that lasted for 8 days instead of 1. So the symbolism that it was fried in oil, including donuts or potato latke, is the reason why we have donuts, fried donuts, on the holiday. That and like I said, potato latke, because it is an oily type of food, and it's supposed to remind us of the oil, the miracle that the oil lasted for 8 days instead of 1 day.
And Rabbi, tell us, what does the word Hanukkah mean?
It's a very, very good question. Hanukkah actually comes from the word chinuch, which means education, and it's all about the children. We want to ensure that they are aware of the importance of the values that the holiday teaches us, the courage, the faith, the hope, not giving up, bringing light into the darkness. And the actual word is comprised of two, it's sort of broken up into 2 words, Chanukah-What, which means they rested on the 25th. That the Maccabees, after several years of battle, they were able to finally rest on the 25th of the day, which is the day of the month of Kislev.
That's the Hebrew month that Hanukkah comes from.
Which often coincides with the other holidays, which again, the idea is that bringing that unity and light into the world. That's really the message of Hanukkah.
Thank you, Rabbi. You elicit a memory from our rabbi back at home, back from Brooklyn before I moved to Staten Island, thankfully, and met you and all of us, that my Rabbi Jelen would say, I remember he was my junior high school Rebbe, and this is years ago, back when the dinosaurs ruled, when I was so young, but he was my Rebbe, and he said, I asked him, because of this other holiday and other time that it usually coincides with, what can our menorah do? It's just 8 candles, as opposed to all these beautiful lights that you see when you go down the street. He said, if you light it right, that 1 light or 2 light or 8 candles with a shamash in the middle, which I'm sure we can explain, if you light it right, it lights up more than anything through the night. And it's something that's stuck with me in here as well.
Very, very true. And you mentioned the shamash. The shamash is the helper, the one that lights the other candles. And notice how it's a little higher than the other candles, which teaches us that those who help others, right, always end up being on a higher level and always gain by giving we truly gain in so many ways.
So where do we put the menorah? So I mean, I think the question always comes down to is when you drive by homes of people
Correct.
who are Jewish, you see a menorah. Sometimes you see electric menorahs. Sometimes you see oil or candle-lit menorahs. What's the difference between them, and where do you put them?
So the mitzvah, or the actual deed would be to light in a way that it publicizes the miracle. So either in ancient Israel, they would light it actually outdoors of the homes, and many light it by today, especially at the window, or by the doorway. Again, the idea is to publicize to the outdoors that it's a miracle. It's a wonderful, amazing story of again heroism and never giving up, because they could have given up, the Maccabees. They said, look, we only have oil for one day. It takes over a week to get more oil. What's the point of even lighting the menorah? And the answer was that no, we don't give up. We light it with what we have, and they didn't, and they did so. And they did their parts, and of course God performed that great miracle and did the rest until they were able to retrieve more oil.
Right, and it's interesting that the miracle of the holiday, we don't commemorate the military victory as much as we do the oil.
Correct.
And you think about it, what we would think about in our own time is, wow, look what happened militarily, how a small ragtag group of Jews fought the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, and they were able, for at least a period of time, they won, and they got the temple back, and they were able to do things. But the miracle is really the oil.
Correct.
The idea,
that's our true strength, the faith, the spiritual victory. There's a book of the Maccabees, which several volumes, several of which talk about the military fight that they had and the strategic ways they were able to overpower the enemy. We're talking about a few hundred Maccabees against several. These numbers are 40,000 or more. The ancient Greek soldiers with greater military artillery and elephants, whatever animals they used in that time, and yet we don't really focus on that. The book of the Maccabees is not something that we delve into too much. It's a spiritual message. The oil is a liquid that always floats above. The idea of always realizing that we have a higher purpose. Yes, military strength is important, and certainly a very big factor, but it's the spiritual good deeds that we do, and the hope and the faith that they had really that brought about the miracle.
so every holiday is festive, this one specifically, and I know there are songs related to this holiday, and we are in perfect tune, all of us. And I hear that we're going to be singing a couple of songs, just a little bit of tidbits in case anybody hears it, in case all of our viewers hear these songs. This dreidel song, there's a light song. So please, guys, I know you guys practice, so we'd love to hear a little song from you guys.
From the two best songstresses in Staten Island.
Here we go. Oh,
Hanukkah, come light the menorah.
Let's have a party, we're all in Tahora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a drink. That anyone to play with and like us to eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night, shed as we light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night, we'll shed as we light to remind us of days long ago.
Oh, that was beautiful. That's a beautiful song.
Excellent.
So, Steve, I know we spoke beforehand, and I said, over the years, there's always been stories of family stories with regard to Hanukkah. And as any festive event, people get together. We have Thanksgiving coming up, and the idea of how people get together as a family. And you said you wanted to tell us a story about in your life a little bit.
Well, I think my most memorable situation in recent years, other than my own personal life growing up and receiving gifts from my family and looking forward every day to unwrapping a new gift for the 8 days of Hanukkah, was seeing my daughters with Rabbi Ivry and his wife Sterner Ivry performing and singing by Staten Island Borough Hall, and also doing what the next generation of children here just did by singing all the Hanukkah songs. And no matter how the weather was at night, that night that we performed, we always had a wonderful time. And that's what I remember most about Hanukkah, celebrating with my family, singing around the menorah, lighting it with the rabbi and other community leaders, and everyone would enjoy the spirit of the holiday. So I enjoyed that in my memories the most.
And I believe your parents were there as well, your mother and father, I believe.
My mother and father, yes, they did come.
They were cheering on.
A couple of times, yeah, they were cheerleaders for my daughters. They absolutely loved anything that they did, and enjoyed the nachas of the family. And again, that's the spirit of the holiday, is to bring joy to other family members and celebrate it together.
See, Ella and Liba, it's not only me that makes a lot of noise when you guys do something good.
I wanted to mention about the Chanukah gelt, one
So
of the
what is the word
traditions.
gelt? Let's go through
Right,
this.
so gelt, of course, is not guilt.
Right.
It's money. It's this one is actually chocolate money, and the tradition is that although many do give gifts, however, giving money represents the idea that a child has a choice to make. Could I use the money just to buy candy or a toy that I like, or could I give it to charity, some of it at least, to help another person in need, perhaps to buy food or clothing. And that's really the message. Money is idea where, as opposed to a definitive toy that could be used or not be used, money could be given, for multiple purposes, to help others, as well as to benefit oneself as well, but also gives the child that freedom to choose to help as well.
Ella is choosing to dissect and inspect every ounce of this money.
So you're saying that money is the traditional.
It's a good educational tool for a child to see what options the child has in terms of using it for themselves or also helping others.
So Manny, as a teacher in a Jewish school out on Staten Island, what about your class? What do you talk to them about Hanukkah?
So I teach my class, I teach my class that no story is complete without a setting. As a matter of fact, I teach second grade at Jewish Foundation School, beautiful. And every story that we read, we just read, I had one of my students, she has a sister in third grade with Ella, and she came running to me by recess and asked, why didn't you give my little sister a story that she had to write an intro about dogs? And I said, listen, it's not just the intro, it's the conflict and the resolution and the setting. And we're really gifted with a special mandate, a rare opportunity when we're teachers or parents or educators, that we're able to bestow upon everybody that comes our way, this generation, future generations, something more. And I remember when I was Baal Tshuva, to connect it to Hanukkah like you asked, I remember when I was Baal Tshuva, that means when I became religious and observant, I myself was 10 years old. A few years older just than my daughter and her best friend sitting next to me. And I came home, I was learning the 10 Commandments, and this is what I teach my students as well. Probably on the second day of school, because the first you got to set some strict expectations, the second you get to bridge that gap. And I explained that I came home and I asked my mom, what is this Shabbos? Keep Shabbat, who does that? She says, oh, that's something other people do. And Hanukkah resonates so well with the Rayburn family, because I went and I said, we should do that. And the first Hanukkah, that was in October, before my birthday, a great day, October 19th. Before my birthday, I told my mother, let's have our first Shabbat. And the first Shabbat was with Dragon Ball Z, the show, while we were eating Shabbos dinner. And the second Shabbos, I know, Lo Aleinu, not us. We do it differently. But the second Shabbos, we had it's still, we weren't kosher yet. But by Hanukkah, not even 8 weeks later, fully kosher, fully latkes, fully everything you see on this display before you. So we know, and I teach the future generation, ideally, that no story is complete without a setting, And no lesson is complete without the theme. And the theme of Hanukkah here is that it's never too late to start, and it's always the right time to shine.
Oh, how beautiful. So Rabbi Ivry, so one of the myths or misnomers or thoughts is, how do you give 8 gifts on Hanukkah? People always say this, people of other faiths, people come to me and say, 8 gifts, that's such a tedious, difficult task.
Right.
You know, some of the adults would say, well, you know, we sort of combine the gifts. Is it really 8 gifts? Is it something really small? So tell us, what's the symbolism and where we have to go with it?
Right. So I grew up in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn, and we had the esteemed Rabbi Schneerson, you know, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who actually would give out at any occasion, aside from Hanukkah, he would give out dimes or dollars, you know, especially to children. When he was just walking to his car, he would hand out nickels to give to charity. So we always had that notion of giving, you know, giving to others, especially children. And in my tradition, I try giving something every night, you know, at least from the Chanukah geld, we give a little bit amount, you know, something, and then maybe the 5th night, which is the majority of the, you know, going through the majority of the nights, I give a little extra. But the idea is that you know, you want to encourage your children to give as well. When they see that example of giving, and sometimes it's not what you give, but it's how you give it. You know, and it's the,
so tell us, what do you mean?
The message.
So what do you mean by that?
The endearing way we give the coin. Maybe, you know, in embracing the child, or, you know, saying a sweet, kind word to the child, or to the adult that we give either gift or the geld or the money to, and we really impart a loving message, you know, and that, I think that's really the symbol of Hanukkah, is that always trying to bring more light, always trying to bring more goodness. And eventually, it's going to light up the whole world, as Manny so eloquently shared before. I think the kids want to sing another song, the dreidel song.
I also was going to ask these kids.
Please.
You want to sing the dreidel song? Which one, the Hebrew one or the English one first?
Now wait, so before anyone sings the dreidel song, you should know, I never told you guys, I lost in the finals to Safta. She beat me in a dreidel competition. So I'm pretty good. I'm not going to play, but I'm pretty good at dreidel. Right. So while you guys
sing the song,
it also resonates very big with the Rayburn house. Hopefully this year we'll see what goes on.
So here we go. Ready?
Sevivon Sosofso Chanukah Uchato Chanukah Uchato Sevivon Sosofso Chag Simcha Ula'ad Neskado Hayasham Neskado Hayasham Chag Simcha Ula'ad.
Very nice.
This is an English version of this for our viewers.
Right,
that basically said that we had a great miracle that happened there, and let's do this. Is there a little English version we could have for everyone?
I have a little
dreidel, I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, oh dreidel I shall play. Oh dreidel, 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 I made you out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, oh dreidel I shall play.
Beautiful. And how do you know? How do you play the game? What do the 4 letters represent? How do you know if you won or not? So if it lands, if you spin the dreidel,
you won if you're Ella.
And
if you're Ella, you win.
And let's say you land on
any letter.
You land on the hay. What is the hay? The hay is
half of
half,
it.
right? So everyone puts in a coin,
right,
and you get half of the coin. If it lands on the nun,
nothing.
Nothing. That's the nun. And if you land on the gimel,
you get everything.
You get everything, right?
I used to remember that by gimel, gimme. Right. So you get everything.
Or gimme gelt.
That's great.
And finally, the shin is. That's where you have to put in something, right? Or you
shin, put one in.
Right. So it's a beautiful game.
It is a lovely game. It's something that's fun for the whole family. And again, it's not. It doesn't take a very long time. It's just a lot of fun, you know, that we all get ourselves together. So tell us, Rabbi Ivry. You know, we gave a little bit of an overview of donuts, menorahs, dreidels. As being the spiritual leader of a synagogue on Staten Island, Torah Semis, Tell me a little bit about what you think about other groups with regard to unity and this time of year.
So, as mentioned, most faiths have the idea of lighting candles or bringing light. You see in this season, and that's really the message. That what someone once said, that our souls are like that light that come into this very dark and sometimes cold and sinister world, and our job is to bring that warmth, to bring that light. And this is really across all faiths and religions. The idea of realizing that we all have a purpose. You mentioned about your birthday is a famous expression. The day you were born is the day when God decided that the world cannot exist without you. And this is really...
You told me that. You told me that.
This is the message, I believe, of all faiths, that we all have a purpose. We all have a reason, the etre, as you say, the purpose and mission in life. And that's to bring light. And I think it's a universal message. And we hope and pray that this holiday does do that, does bring that light and warmth and community.
Have you noticed a lot of people asking you about Hanukkah over the years? I mean, you grew up in Brooklyn, there's a large community there. People live more on Staten Island, as we are right now. Do you have people asking, what is this all about?
Certainly. I mean, you could see, this is a very publicized holiday. Right. As a lot of holidays become more commercialized, but certainly you see the menorahs all over, the public menorahs. There are many, certainly on Staten Island, but I think the largest one in the world is in Central Park in Manhattan. This is something that's really public, and again, it's a message of light, of goodness, of hope. We always remember what Maimonides, a famous philosopher, astronomer, codifier of Jewish lost rights, and physician, right, I should say. So he says that everyone should look at themselves in the world as if on a cosmic scale. One good deed, one good action that we do, one good word that we share, or even a good thought could tip the entire scale and bring salvation for the whole world. And
to be unified with the world, and to hope there's peace for everyone, and then we could all live in peace and prosperity. So guys, do you have any more songs? Or do I have to say goodbye to everyone?
I love my little father.
No.
No more songs? Okay. Then I'm going to say thank you to everyone. There's a little tidbit about Hanukkah, the 8-day holiday that many of the Jewish people celebrate, starting in a few weeks. And we always do this for some of the Jewish holidays, just to bring our friends together, just to understand what's happening, and really take out the mystery of what we see. Lights are all over, and will be over in the wintertime. And this is one of those little things where we have our candles out there. They last for an hour or two at most, but that's where we sometimes use the electric candles, the electric lights, for us all to be able to enjoy this time. And let's hope there's peace and prosperity for all of us. And I want to say good night to everyone and thank my wonderful guests. Good night.
Schien ist verstellen, hai, nur halbes Tanz. Nie Gimmel, hai, schien, ai, ai, ai. Drei, 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 drei.